everybody, and welcome to Speaking of Sustainability, the show where we introduce you to the leaders and change agents making a difference in the sustainability space. I'm your host, Colleen Falicki. After starting my composting business in 2017, I quickly realized that our communities are looking for more ways to be sustainable in their daily lives and to support eco-friendly businesses. I'm so excited to introduce you to some sustainable superheroes as we all look to make our planet a better place for years to come. I always say this, but I love that music. Gets me pumped up. Good morning. Well, welcome to Speaking of Sustainability. I'm your host, Colleen Falicki, and at the beginning of each show, we talk about something that's super important that everyone should know. And today we're talking about plastic. More than 400 million tons of plastic waste are produced by brands each year. From packaging, fashion, and consumer goods are the key culprits. So I just want you to think about that today and going forward. How can we change that? How can we as consumers take a look at the companies that you're purchasing from and their packaging and their sustainable policies, and purchase items that use less plastic, locally sourced and made. So that's my tip for today. After seeing that, that's how much plastic we waste. So I'm super excited today to introduce you to my guest. He is a leader and change agent in our community and beyond. He is someone who I think you will love, and I wish we had more time. We wish we had more time to talk to him. I wish I had more time to talk to him about this. So his name is Andrew Conboy, and I'm super excited to introduce you to him. And I hope that you will listen intently. Thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm excited to be here, and I'm a big fan of your Back to Earth compost crew and all you do in the community. So I'm excited to chat with you for a little.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. So I have so many questions for you, but we'll try to keep it short. But tell me a little bit about yourself and how you became interested in ecological restoration, native trees and plants, and lawn reduction.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I first became interested in environmental issues in middle school. I had a really great middle school teacher who was the first one to teach me about climate change and all the ways that humans are negatively impacting our environment. And from there, I just was always interested in learning more. So I eventually went to college and majored in environmental science, and was always interested in environmental issues and doing what I can to try to eradicate them or make them better if possible. But I guess as I went into graduate school, I went a slightly different path and went studied evolutionary biology. But it was during that time that I really discovered my passion for plants. And when I started volunteering more with ecological restoration groups and volunteer groups in my area. And I realized that it clicked for me that native plants and native trees and restoring nature and ecosystems can fight so many of these environmental issues that I care so deeply about, climate change and the biodiversity crisis and air pollution, water pollution. So many things at once can be made better with restoring native ecosystems. And it kind of just got rolling from there. And I just love learning more about it and sharing whatever I learned with whoever will listen.
That's awesome. Well, you do share a lot, and I will say that's how I came to learn about your, I guess, alter ego, Andrew the Arborist. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so I've always had a hobby in video making and video creation. I guess when I was growing up in middle school and high school, I had a YouTube gaming channel So I was making videos about video games that I was playing. But as my interest changed and evolved, I guess, I wanted to make content about ecological restoration, or ways that humans, or how we can help our environment in our daily lives. And so I started making videos about environmental topics, or environmental education, and trees and plants, and anything that I really found interesting, I try to share with folks online. So I make videos and put them on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram as well. So yeah, I think it's a
You're
great
very
way.
humble. You're very humble. You have a lot of followers.
Yeah, it's been great. I'm happy and pleasantly surprised with how many people are interested, and the amount of, I guess, the reception that I've gotten on the videos. It's awesome to reach so many people and to help, even if 10% of the people make a change, or even less, we're still affecting and making a positive impact. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like a ripple effect.
Hmm.
You telling these people who are out, they're telling their friends and family and, community members and neighbors. So, have you had any stories from any of the folks that follow you about, how they've implemented something differently or done something, made a change because of what they've seen?
Yeah, definitely. I get messages somewhat frequently about maybe instead of planting this non-native tree, they planted a native oak tree because they saw a video about how important oak trees are, or just making a better decision with native plants instead of, I guess, non-native, or the more common, like box store plants. But yeah, I think there's been a good amount of messages along the way, which is it's always fun to help people and see the difference. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I know you've made an impact on me. Like when I think about what we're planning at home, I think first, like is it a native plant? Is it a perennial? Like how will it affect will we get bees? And then also like what do we do at the end of its life cycle, keeping it around in in the wintertime, because the bees and they need somewhere to go, or
Hmm.
the insects need somewhere to be. So that
Totally. Yeah, that's great to
all
hear.
that. Yeah, yeah. I'm still learning. So, and I appreciate all of the content that you put out there. So it's super
Thank you.
useful.
Thank
What do
you.
you want people to know about the work that you do?
I think the biggest thing that I try to portray is that everyone and anyone can make a difference in their yard or in their community. If they want to plant a native plant in their yard, even if it's one plant in a pot on your balcony or on your front porch, you can make a difference. You can attract pollinators. You can help pollinators even with one plant. Or if you have more space, you can plant, a big oak tree or something that can help more. But even if you have nowhere to plant anything, you can remove invasive plants from your community, from your parks. You can try to get involved with volunteer groups in your area that do this kind of work in your parks and natural areas. And you can pick up litter or just clean up your community and try to make a difference that way. But I think that's the biggest thing, is that I think everyone can make a difference. And for me personally, I always talk about how this type of work helps me, at least with my like climate and eco anxiety. And like, you see all this bad news about environmental issues and natural disasters that are made worse by climate change, and all these different things that could have you feeling really sad all the time. And sometimes that gets me, but this kind of work definitely helps my anxieties a little bit. And I think it makes you feel better when you do this type of stuff. So I encourage people to do what they can.
I'm right there with you. Taking action simply helps the eco anxiety.
Totally. Yeah.
You feel like the weight of or I know I do, like the weight of the world is like, we have to do something. And then
Mhm.
just taking the action to do something personally makes me feel better.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about like what your organization does as far as volunteers and the activities that are happening?
Yeah, sure. So I started a nonprofit ecological restoration group in the Plymouth Meeting and White Marsh, Conshohocken, Norristown area. And I originally volunteered a lot with like Philly Parks and Rec and Fairmount Park Conservancy and groups who were doing similar things in the city and in the suburbs. And I wanted to bring that kind of work back to where I grew up in the Plymouth Meeting area. So I founded Colonial Canopy Trees. And so it's kind of evolved over time. We've worked closely with the municipalities, the townships themselves, and we've worked together to plant a lot of trees in public parks, which is great. And we've also just worked with a lot of folks in the community. We have about 25-ish volunteer events each year, roughly half in the spring and fall, and a few over the winter. And we just focus on removing invasive species or invasive plants that are threatening our ecosystems in our parks around the area. And we also we focus on native plant restoration, so planting native trees. But a big part of what we do is education as well. So we try to teach folks that they can take this knowledge and bring it back to their property where they can do the same thing, remove the harmful invasives and replace them with native, valuable, ecologically valuable plants. And it's been great. I'm never thought it would kind of turn into what it is now. It just started out kind of, I was growing a bunch of trees in nursery pots, and eventually I had too many of them and was looking for a spot to plant some. So I posted on Facebook, and it just kind of kept rolling. But yeah, it's been great. And like I said, it's super fulfilling work for me. So I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. And you're doing such great work in the community as someone who's been a volunteer and have seen firsthand what you're doing. What would you say to someone who maybe doesn't have an organization like yours where they live, but wants to do something like this? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I usually recommend that they try to find an environmentally focused group. But yeah, if there's not one in the area, then perhaps if they feel comfortable, they can try to start or hold an event on their own. If they know like how to identify one particular invasive, for example, they could focus on removing that and try to get some community involvement and maybe get a few volunteers out, or even just hosting a litter cleanup. Maybe try to get those connections going and see what it could turn into. But yeah, I think if there are organizations in your area, it's definitely a great place to start, because you're usually working with folks who do this professionally or who have a lot of knowledge about natural areas, and it's a great place to learn. So I always recommend, yeah.
Good to know. Good to know. And any call to actions that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, we have recently just uploaded our upcoming events for the fall. And if you're in the Plymouth Meeting or White Marsh areas, we have a lot of upcoming volunteer events all throughout the area. And I'd love to see folks join if they can, to help plant trees or remove invasives. And yeah, it's always fun to plant a tree in your community or do work in your community, and then you can drive by or visit that site later and watch your tree grow and stuff like that. I think that's always fun.
For sure. And also, so that's Colonial Canopy Trees. And then also Andrew the Arborist. Make sure that you follow Andrew the Arborist on Instagram. You said TikTok as well?
Yeah, TikTok and YouTube as well.
Okay. Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Andrew the Arborist. All right. Before we get out of here, I just want to do our breakdown. We're at the breakdown portion of our show, and that's kind of where we discuss a a misnomer, when it comes to, if you could just talk to us a little bit about, say the biggest misnomer when it comes to native plants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm trying to think of a misnomer. I think well, a popular idea is that it's not. I guess it's not really a misnomer, but a lot of folks. I don't know. I mean, some folks say that non-native plants are not that bad, and they have their benefits, and certainly, all plants provide some sort of environmental benefit. They sequester carbon, they reduce pollution, they hold the soil in place. But native plants are certainly superior to the non-native ones whenever possible, because they also provide all of those benefits, but they help our wildlife as well, and they help the ecosystem function, which provides more of those ecological benefits. So planting, I guess, yeah, just planting native wherever you can. And it doesn't have to be a 100% native landscape. You can still plant non-native plants if you really want them. Just don't plant anything invasive that can spread outside of your landscape. But non-native plants are okay in moderation. And as long as you have mostly native plants, you're going to have a lot of insects and a lot of good things being attracted to your landscape. And that's what we're trying to do in terms of restoring the ecosystem.
Fantastic. Do you have any particular native plants that you recommend the most, or does it depend on, I guess, where you live specifically?
Yeah, I always recommend first, if you have the space for an oak tree, to plant an oak tree, a native oak, to your area, because throughout most of the continental U.S., oak trees are the best for wildlife. They support the most amount of insects, which supports the most amount of birds and up the food chain. But if you don't have space to plant a big oak tree, then I would recommend starting with a reliable and deer-resistant perennial native plant, such as milkweed. I always recommend milkweed as a great native plant beginner gardener plant, because, like I said, deer usually don't eat any of the milkweeds because they're toxic to them. But milkweeds are generally really great pollinator plants. So when they're in bloom, you'll see a lot of pollinators and butterflies and bees. And they also support the monarch butterfly, which has been on a steep decline in terms of population numbers in recent years. So that's unfortunate. And you'll attract monarch butterflies. And it's just a great way to get into native plant gardening, I think, because you'll see results almost instantly, and they're easy plants to grow in most situations. And if you have, I guess it varies on where you live, but there's native milkweeds all over the US. So make sure they're native to your area. But for our area, I recommend swamp milkweed if your soil is moist or wet. Common milkweed in just like regular average soils, and butterfly milkweed as well with the average soils, but that can also take poor, dry soil. So like I plant a lot of butterfly milkweed along the strip in front of my house because it's poor soils there, and they do just fine. And so there's a lot of options, and it makes you feel good.
Great information. And to get those, is there a certain nursery, or can you order online, or what do you recommend?
Yeah, we're lucky in our area. We're surrounded by a lot of really cool public gardens and arboreta, and a lot of them have a native plant sale. So I buy a lot of native plants at the Schuylkill Center for Environmental Education in Philadelphia, kind of just past the Roxborough area. I also go to Jenkins Arboretum. They have a really extensive selection of native plants. And there are certainly places you can buy online that kind of sell local ecotype to Pennsylvania. So I sometimes order from Bloombox, and as well from what's that one? Prairie Moon Nursery. So
nice.
there's a lot of places where you can get these native plants around.
Fantastic. Taking notes over here. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been wonderful. I'm so glad that you're able to share this information with our listeners and viewers. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad. I hope it was helpful to some folks, and thanks for having me on.
You're welcome.
Thank you for tuning in to another awesome episode of Speaking of Sustainability. Please follow and support our guests as we encourage you to continue doing your part to make a difference in our global community. And don't forget to rate, like, and share. See you next time.